not gonna try to prolong this, but you have to, for every story you all have, for your business, okay, there's 10 more stories for the residents that can't afford to live in the houses they're in now, okay? I'm not gonna mention these people's names, Steve, but I've had people from Martin's Pond area that live up here, they're losing their homes, and they don't even know what to do tomorrow. And I can go on and on and on all night, but I'm not gonna embarrass those people, I'm gonna call them out. But you know what, and they're not gonna come here in front of you, Steve,
One at a time,
in front of
yes.
this board, and pour their hearts out, but they need help too. And you know what, even if it's a shift of $100, it's a shift of $100 that helps them. Okay, I'm not talking about making a 50% shift, I'm not even talking about making a 25% shift, okay? I'm saying we gotta get back, we gotta do things different. I've been saying this before I even got elected. We can't keep doing the same thing every year. And it's naive of us not to consider that there is a significant number of residents in this town that are hurting. We have seen, and Deb, you may be able to help me on this one, foreclosures going up at a rate that we've never seen before.
A lot of the foreclosures that you see advertised in the paper do not always make it to foreclosure status. When it came down to doing what's called the LA3 this year, and I have to do that every year, and that is the actual sale, homes or structures that sell, properties that sell. The foreclosures that occurred were very minimal. They were not even half the percent that you see in the paper. What happens is there is a Liz Pendon's part, there is such a process to get to a foreclosure status. That a lot of times what happens is they either make do with the bank or they make negotiations with the bank or whatever. And of course, credit rating is huge with the bank right now. You really have to have a good credit rating, and the banks are working with a lot of those homeowners. But once they're behind a certain point, it does have to get published as if it's gonna be foreclosed, but it doesn't always
You have to
happen.
admit, those numbers are pretty high that are getting published. That means
I'm
they have
not
a
gonna
problem. They're
ramble
strong.
off a percentage, cause I'm not
No,
gonna
I'm
give a
looking for
number
it.
unless I know
But
the number.
I've only lived here 10
But I
years, and
looked
I've
at
seen it.
every single
All
one of them this year, and it was very
I
few.
think we're beating this horse
are.
to death.
That's because of me, and
Unless
I
there's
apologize.
anyone, unless there's anyone in the audience, I'd like to close the hearing.
I just have one.
I'll give you an opportunity, you haven't
I-
said very much, so.
Thanks for waking me up. Just kidding, Mike. Deb, you and your board have recommended a single tax rate. Can you just,
That is correct.
I don't think you've gotten to that point in your presentation. Can you just tell us why?
I can say why. If I look around the town of North Reading, and I'm on these roads all the time, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've worked in cities, I've worked in towns. We're at 7% of the tax base currently. I look at the growth that is coming into town, that is gonna increase our infrastructure. I look at Milton Cat, that was huge, I was doing dances. I look at American Tavern, but then I look at American Tavern and only half of it is full. I'm on the email with the property manager over there all the time, just feeling her out to find out when that potential bank may go in there, or when that potential retail property may go in there. We are seeing some growth in the CIP, but from my board's point of view, if we were to shift that rate, you're gonna eliminate any future people coming in right now because of the economy. Right now, Milton Cat, why didn't they go to Wilmington? They chose North Reading.
You think it was because of this tax rate?
I can tell you for fact that that was part of their decision. For the same reason that in the town of Middleton, we got the water park, the Cocoa Keys, and that guy told us directly it was because of the single tax rate. It's huge growth. We got more growth from Kiva Systems over at 300 River Park. We're seeing growth, but it's not fast and furious. You're not gonna see it in an economy like we have today. But let's keep it growing. If our feeling as the Board of Assessors, if we were to shift that rate right now, I think you're gonna see your percentage of that levy go down, and your residential taxpayers are gonna be bearing even more. That's our opinion, and that is why we are recommending, and that's all we do. We can only make a recommendation of a tax factor of 1.
I heard you focus on the 12.5% of the town. What about the other 87+% of the town? Have you done that assessment?
I'm not sure I follow what
Well,
you're,
you said
where you're
you've-
going.
You said you've reached out to, you've driven around and you've looked at where the American Tavern is,
Mm-hmm,
and that it's half full. And you've
Yeah.
driven around and you've seen these commercial pieces of properties and the conditions and what
Correct.
the rents are.
Yep.
Have you done that in the residential side? Have you talked to-
absolutely.
have you
We
picked up
had,
the phone and
we
called
had
the residents?
283 building permits last year, and I was out there at them. If there was an addition, I measured it. If there was a new house, I measured that. I do
No,
the
that's not what I'm
OCs.
talking about,
If, well, where else am I
I'm
gonna
talking
get
about-
the 87%
I'm talking about
revenue?
picking up the phone and drive around the neighborhoods and do the same thing and look at a house
I
that's been
do.
sealed for 3 or 4 years and there's nobody in it. Okay, because, you know,
I only know of one house.
I'm just saying, if you drive around, if you're gonna do this assessment the way you
Yeah.
are on this 12.5% of the town, you have to give the same fair shot to the residents that are living in 400, 500, $600,000 homes and give them the same fair shot.
But I do, Michael. That's what I'm explaining to you. We had 283 building permits. We had
how much of those were
200,
residential?
can I finish? We had 221 sales that I inspected. I am out there. I am measuring those houses. I'm talking the 450, I'm talking the 900,000. It doesn't matter to me. My tape measure will work on any house. I need to make sure that my numbers are correct. I also need to make sure that I am validating the values that I'm putting on those houses. I'm in the residential neighborhoods. Sean had asked me about the reason why we were recommending a tax factor of 1. That is why I led into the discussion of me being out there on the commercial and industrial. Michael, I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. I have to know my market. If I don't know my market, how can I put a value on these properties in this town? All 6,194.
I would like to thank you, and at this point, I'm gonna close the public hearing, and it's now up to the board. And I think, since we've beat this thing to death one time around, make
Starting
the
on this
case.
side or that side?
Doesn't matter.
Well,
All right,
let him
Michael, go
finish
ahead.
up.
Finish it.
lap, you do a lap.
I just wanna make sure it's clear, okay? I'm not against business.
Excuse
Okay,
me.
I'm about quality, being equal across the board, being fair across the board. And I understand the situation the 12% of the tax base is paying in how business is hurting. There's also this 87.5% that, there's a good chunk of them that are hurting. And you have to
You're
look at
correct.
things from a percentage perspective, okay? And I think we don't give enough attention to that. And until we recognize it, that there's a lot more going on in these residential areas. People are hurting a lot more than you realize. People are trying to shop in this town, and we want to try to do ways to keep them shopping in this town. And I don't also believe at all that anybody is building a piece of property on the commercial side because of our tax rate. I don't believe it, I never will, and you have to convince me of that one. But I also, and I want to finish up with this one. You did a tremendous job, and I know I
Thank you.
threw a lot at you. And when I was speaking at you, I don't want you to ever think I was speaking at you
Oh,
personally.
no,
I was
no,
speaking
I
at
don't take it
you
personal.
because you're in front of me. And sometimes I'm an Italian. I'm
I
hot-headed.
have the data.
And,
Did you know what my
but
last
I
name was?
think you did a wonderful job. You have a wonderful job, and I gotta tell you, it's vast improvement from last year. I know last year was your first one. Great job, excellent. I
I've been
applaud you.
here a year. I know
Excellent job.
the properties.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
I just want to remind you, you have to take 3 votes.
Yeah, I got them all.
We have the motion.
We have actually 4, I believe we have to take, right? You wanna do it? Oh, no, 3
one
others.
on the shift.
Got it.
Mr.
Me? Me? That was,
Well, typically I'll agree with Michael, but on this, I think we're worlds apart. I think one of the big reasons why Milton Cat came in and other businesses, commercial businesses developed here is because, Michael, you listening?
1 second.
This is for your benefit.
I'm doing my administrative duties too.
Now, what I said, I don't know if you heard me, but
I didn't, I apologize.
I completely disagree with you. I think one of the big selling points to this community, and maybe we haven't sold it that way, but I think one of the big selling points for commercial businesses in this community is because we do have a single tax rate. And I do believe that's a big reason why Milton Cat came here. It didn't go a mile down the road into Wilmington. Huge difference in terms of single versus split tax rate between here and Wilmington. This economy has not changed over the last year. Some people may even think it's gotten worse, going to get worse. I don't think it's the appropriate time to consider split tax rate. As Mr. O'Leary had pointed out, it doesn't add another dollar to our tax revenue. We're trying to get traction on an economic development committee and get some movement in that area. I think, like I said, we haven't done a good job in promoting a single tax rate to entice other commercial businesses to come in. That's one thing I'd like to see done, to increase the amount of commercial businesses in town. Also, one other thing Mr. O'Leary hit on was if we split to the maximum of the 150, he already went through those numbers. But if you go to just a 110, the savings for a residential homeowner is $100 versus the impact on the commercial businesses is about $1,400. If you go to 125, residential homeowner is $200. Commercial business owner, it's about a $3,300 tax increase on the average home versus the average commercial building. I'm not saying the savings is not important to people that are struggling, whether it's $100, $300, but when you take a look at the difference in the split between the two, it's huge. My concern would be not only losing businesses that are here, but closing the door to businesses that may want to come in if we make the split at this time. So, once again, this year, I'm not supporting a split tax rate. I'm in favor, again, of a single tax rate. I'm not in favor of any exemption, because I think the exemption is just in the residential area, you're shifting it to higher price value homes. Likewise, on commercial businesses, as well, Deb had indicated, there aren't any that qualify anyhow, but for the similar reason, if there were any that qualified, it just wouldn't make sense. But you're shifting a tax burden, and I don't believe it would be appropriate to do, certainly in this time.
Mr. Yule?
yes, boy, there's a lot to be said, and it's all been said, it seems. So I'm gonna try not to prolong this. Hey, Mark, since you remember your conversation with Mike when he was running for office, do you remember our conversation that we had at the corner of your store when I was running? With regard to taxes and so on, and the taxing business?
You what?
With regard to taxing businesses and the split tax, that was a big issue for you at that time?
Yes.
Do you remember that? And I was at the Reading Bank. Do you remember what I said?
I don't remember the answer. I don't remember the talk.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Mike, I want to, in one sense, I want to commend you. I think standing up for the citizens of North Reading the way you have, I think it was very passionate and well-intended. We also have to look at the big picture. We have a tremendous big picture here, and we have to see what are we saving, who are we saving for, and how is the town benefiting. As already has been said, the numbers are the same, okay, as far as the total number. It doesn't change. We're not going to get any more out of this, right? We're just going to split the tax to business versus the residents, and the residents would have a very slightly lower tax rate, whereas the businesses would have a significantly higher tax rate.